Mangwanani Malilepo Fukenjani Kleklas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Bedi and Glenora Shipura on Friday, the 12th of January. How are you, Glenn?
I'm doing very well.
Yes.
What are your plans for the weekend? It's a Friday.
It's Afcon time.
It's Afcon time.
It is Afcon time. Absolutely.
Yeah, invite me over. I'll bring popcorns and stuff. Or what do we do?
Yeah. I mean, your nation's flag. You know what I mean. Namibia is going to be at Afcon, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'll bring a flag and some popcorn.
There we go. And biltong. Keep it Namibia.
Biltong, yeah. Let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. UN court hears South Africa genocide case against Israel. Somalia says it is working to rescue hostages from UN helicopter. And Afcon 2023 Gambia squad could have died on aborted flight to Ivory Coast. We'll also be talking to Mike Sichula in Zambia, who'll be filling us in on the latest news over there. Do stay tuned for these and more on Africa Good Morning.
The UN's International Court of Justice yesterday heard a case brought by South Africa accusing Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. The submission also calls on the court to order Israel to stop military operations there. Israel's plan to destroy Gaza comes from the highest level of state the UN top court has heard. The claims were made by South African lawyers as it presented its case accusing Israel of genocide. Now, the court will deliver only an opinion on the genocide allegation, although it is being closely watched. Tembeka Kaitobi, a lawyer for the High Court of South Africa, told the ICJ Israel's genocidal intent was evident from the way in which this military attack is being conducted. The intent to destroy Gaza has been nurtured at the highest level of state, he said. Every day there is mounting irreparable loss of life, property, dignity and humanity for the Palestinian people, Adila Hassim, also representing South Africa, told the court.
In our next story, the Congo River has risen to its highest level in more than 60 years, causing flooding throughout the Democratic Republic of Congo and Congo Republic that has killed more than 300 people over the past months, according to authorities. Poor urban planning and weak infrastructure have made some African countries vulnerable to flash floods after intense rains, which have become more frequent due to climate change. Ferry Mowa, a hydrology specialist at the DRC Riverways Authority, part of the Transport Ministry, said his office had flagged the high water level in late December, warning that almost the entire floodplain of the capital Kinshasa, which sits on the banks of the river, could be affected. On Wednesday, the river reached 6.20 meters, about 20.34 feet above sea level, just shy of the 1961 record of 6.26 meters, he told Reuters, adding that the flooding had followed exceptionally high rains inland. It is imperative that the people who live around the river move, Mowa said. Several neighborhoods in DRC's densely populated Kinshasa have flooded, as well as communities in more than a dozen provinces, the Social Affairs Ministry said.
Now, the Gambia squad traveling to the Ivory Coast for the forthcoming 2023 Africa Cup of Nations could have died from carbon monoxide poisoning on their plane, Coach Saint Fiet has told the BBC. The Air Cote d'Ivoire flight turned around just 9 minutes after leaving the Gambian capital Banjul on Wednesday because of a lack of oxygen in the plane, which prompted many of the delegation to fall asleep. Now, Saint Fiet praised the quick thinking of the pilots for keeping his team safe. The local crew said there was a problem with the air conditioning before we took off, but that it would be all fine when we took off, Saint Fiet told BBC Sport Africa. After a few minutes, it was very hot in the plane. We all fell asleep because there was a lack of oxygen. Some of the players couldn't be woken up. The pilots noticed and we had to return. People got headaches, and if the flight had gone on for another 30 minutes, the whole team would have died.
In our next story, Somalia's government is working to rescue the passengers of a UN helicopter that was captured by Al-Shabaab militants, a spokesperson said on Thursday, but military officers said it would be difficult to access the area where they were taken. The UN-contracted helicopter was conducting an air medical evacuation when a technical problem forced it to make an emergency landing near Hindher village in central Somalia, an area controlled by the militants. 2 Somali men and several foreigners were on board, and many were taken hostage by the militants, 2 officers told Reuters. It was not clear exactly how many were captured and whether any managed to escape. The government has been undertaking efforts to rescue the crew since yesterday when the accident happened, and efforts are still going on. Information Minister Duat Awiz told Reuters he did not provide any further details. Colonel Abdullahi Isse, who is based in the town of Adodo, about 100 kilometers north of Hindhere, told Reuters that troops in the area had no plans to launch a rescue mission.
Now, World Health Organization Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus this week said that almost 90% of the population of Gaza, 1.9 million people, have been displaced. And with only 15 hospitals functioning even partially, the lack of clean water and sanitation and overcrowded living conditions are creating the ideal environment for diseases to spread. Dr. Tedros told reporters in Geneva that after 100 days of conflict, the situation in the Gaza Strip was indescribable. For her part, Health Emergencies Interventions Technical Officer Dr. Teresa Zakaria explained that due to lack of access, we don't know what we're dealing with. We're not fully aware of and what measures we need to put in place to actually control any diseases that are spreading. Those have been our top stories on Africa. Good morning. We're going to be swinging over to Zambia, talking to Mike Sichula after the break.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
President Hakainde Hichilema, who himself was an opposition leader for a very long time, has praised opposition political parties in the Democratic Republic of Congo for upholding peace after the disputed general election. Getting into these stories and more, with us is Mike Sichula in Zambia. Mike Wuriwanji, please get into your first story.
Africa, good morning to our dear viewers. Yes, indeed, President Hakainde Hichilema, as you may be aware, he is the current chair of the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation. So yesterday, he received a briefing from the former Vice President Enoch Kavindere, who led the SADC Electoral Observer Mission during the Democratic Republic of Congo elections. So President Hichilema, when he received the report, he did commend opposition political parties in that country for upholding peace despite having grievances in the just general elections. President Hichilema said that the decision by candidates to go to court as opposed to resorting to the streets is commendable. He also says that he is aware that there are a number of petitions that are before the courts which are presented during and after the elections. So definitely this is coming about because Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo hold their neighbors, and any instability in the Congo is actually going to spill into there, considering that there's a lot of business, informal and formal business that is going on Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo borders. So President Hichilema has been keeping an eye on the peace in Congo because any instability in the Congo, like I've said, is always a detrimental to the Zambian economy. So he has commended the opposition political parties and he still encouraged them to continue seeking progressive ways to resolve their disputes.
Now moving on, what is the latest update on the court case where former President Edgar Lungu has sued the state over his revoked benefits?
Yes, the state, to bring to speed our viewers who may not be aware, they did revoke President Edgar Lungu's benefits after he declared his intentions to join active politics. So the state has submitted that its decision to withdraw pension on former President Lungu was not a constitutional breach, and therefore his lawsuit challenging the move should be dismissed. This is according to Deputy Secretary to the Cabinet for Administration, Oliver Kalabo, who told the court that the withdrawal of the benefits follows Mr. Lungu's decision to outrightly return to active politics. So in this case, Mr. Lungu has sued the state over its decision to withdraw his benefits following his return to active politics on October 28, 2023. So this is a case that is still ongoing. The court has not ruled, and so far President Lungu has been involved in active politics, where he's commented on certain issues that are happening in the country, and that has not gone well with members of the ruling party, as well as other civil society organizations who believe that Mr. Lungu should become a statesman instead of uh, bringing back into politics, where he can be attacked politically by his opponents and people who do not befit his status as former president of Zambia.
Very interesting update indeed. Now, Mike, please give us the latest measure that has been put in place with regards to the cholera outbreak, and then sewing right over into the latest with Chipolopolo.
All right. So in terms of what government has done, they have directed that churches to cut short worship hours from the usual 4 to 5 hours to 2 hours, and they have discouraged hugs and handshakes. So as you can see from the status there of the cholera update, like yesterday, in the last 24 hours, 18 deaths were recorded, and the number of cholera patients so far now has reached over 7,000 since October last year. There have been also some good progress in terms of recoveries, which is the Minister of Health is saying is progressive, and it means that what they have put in place is actually working. So in terms of discouraging people, so most of the companies have also scaled down on the workforce in terms of people who come. They prevent huge gathering in workplaces, and also the local authorities within districts have also intensified the cleaning up exercise, and also provision of chlorine to ensure that people are drinking chlorinated water or boil the water. Then moving on to the last sports story, the Zambia national team, the Chorokoro boys, left Saudi Arabia yesterday. They have gone to Ivory Coast ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations, which kicks off this weekend. Then Zambia will face the Democratic Republic of Congo on the 17th of January before meeting and lastly ending their campaign against Morocco. So before leaving Saudi Arabia, Zambia a friendly match against Cameroon, and in that Zambia the match ended 1-1. And Fashion and Patson Daka there in the with Regent African player Eto was pictured there. He Patson Daka actually scored the first goal for Zambia before Cameroon equalized. So according to Coach Avram Grant, he believes that this Zambia national team should not be, Zambia should have realistic expectation, considering that only one player in this squad, that is Topiran Suzu, has Africa Cup experience, but he still believes that the team has got what it takes to fight for honors Afcon.
We are certainly going to be keeping an eye on Chipolopolo's efforts, of course, as well as the brave warriors from Namibia. And we certainly thank Mike Sichula for bringing us the news stories from Zambia as they are. We're going to swing over to the weather predictions just before we come back with some fuel, or rather gasoline news in economic stories.
Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Getting into economic news stories, cheap gasoline from a supply glut along the U.S. Gulf Coast has reopened far-flung markets, including Australia and Mozambique, to exports of the U.S. fuel. U.S. gasoline demand at the end of December fell to the lowest in a year. Stocks in PADD3 along the Gulf Coast were up 9.5% over a year earlier at the end of last month as refiners cranked up production after full maintenance outages. A cargo of U.S. gasoline was headed to Australia on Wednesday and was expected to unload at Mozambique in coming days. Vessel STI Madison, chartered by Total Energies Atlantic Trading and Marketing, loaded about 700,000 barrels of gasoline from Marathon Petroleum's Garyville, Louisiana refinery on the 15th of December and expected to discharge in Sydney near the end of this month, according to LSEG ship tracking.
Moving on, Argentina and the International Monetary Fund have finalized an agreement to release $4.7 billion as part of a debt restructuring plan for the troubled South American nation. Latin America's third biggest economy is facing dire economic challenges after decades of debt and financial mismanagement, with inflation surpassing 160% year-on-year and 40% of Argentinians living in poverty. Understandings were reached on a strengthened set of policies to restore macroeconomic stability and bring the current program back on track, the IMF said in a statement on Wednesday. With this deal, Argentina's new president, Javier Milei, who took power in December and inherited a deep social, economic, and financial crisis, puts back on track a $44 billion bailout package with the IMF that dates back to 2018. The agreement is to be approved by the Global Lenders Executive Board in the coming weeks, IMF said.
All right, those have been our economic news stories. We're going to head over to the indicators just before Ari comes by with the sport.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with soccer news first. It's soccer news from the Carabao Cup, and news there is that Liverpool won their first leg game. That's in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. They played at home and they beat Fulham by 2-1. They had to come back from behind. It was Willian that scored first for Fulham in the 19th minute. It was only in the 68th minute that Curtis Jones scored for Liverpool to make it 1-1. Then in the 71st minute it was Cody Gakpo that scored the winner for Liverpool. The second leg will be played on the 24th of January. That will be played at Craven Cottage. That is the home field of Fulham. And the other semi-final that will also be, the second leg will be Chelsea that plays against Middlesbrough. That will be on the 23rd of June. Those are the 4 teams still in contention to win the Carabao Cup. It's Liverpool that's trying to win the Carabao Cup for the 10th time. Moving on to Dakar news, it's the Dakar 2024 rally that is taking place in Saudi Arabia. News from the car section is that it was the ProDrive Hunter driver, defending champion Nasser Al Attiyah, that won the short stage, only 118 kilometers, and it is still Yaziz Al Raji in his Toyota that is leading the car section. In the motorcycle section, it was Pablo Contranilla of Honda that won the stage over 118 kilometers. In cricket news, it is Cricket Australia that announced that Steve Smith will replace David Warner as the new openings batsman. That's in the next series for the Australian team when they play against the West Indies. That will start on the 17th of January. It is David Warner that announced his retirement. Steve Smith, not normally the opening batsman. He haven't opened any games, and in fact at all for Australia, and it will be a new experience for him. It's a bit of a surprise. Everybody thought that Cameron Bancroft, that is the leading run scorer in the Sheffield Shield, will be included in the team, but Cameron Bancroft not included in the team. He was involved also in the Sandpaper Gate scandal that was at Newlands in March 2018 and suspended for that. There's one other batsman that was included in the team, but he's not an opening batsman. That is Matthew Renshaw, and it is a 2-test series that will be played against West Indies starting on the 17th of January. Closing off today's international sports news with rugby news, and it is Jake White, the coach of the Bulls, that announced that 3 of his Springboks will rest for the next few weeks. That is a compulsory rest asked for SA Rugby for Springbok World Cup winning players. It will be Kane Moody, and also Kurtley Arons and Philly Leroux will not be playing against Bristol this weekend and will also rest for the rest of January. In this weekend, it will be the Bulls that play against Bristol on Saturday, and the other game involving South African teams will be the Stormers that will host the Sale Sharks. That game will be played in Cape Town. Currently, all the Springboks are still playing for the Stormers. They will take their rest at a later stage. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning throughout the broadcast. Let's have a look at the highlights. UN court hears South Africa genocide case against Israel. Hundreds dead as Congo River basin submerged by generational floods. Cheap US gasoline heads to Australia, Mozambique in rare shipments.
And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Do remember that you can catch Africa Good Morning next week, same time, same place. From me, Glenn Rashipura.
And me, Ashwin Berry. Until next week, Suresh Kanaka.